Hello, everybody. I hope you are going to have an amazing start to the week. We are talking this week purely about the Sicilian defense, probably the most theoretically explored, one of the most important and aggressive openings in the game of chess. This video rather, this week we're going to be talking about all the different variations. Literally, I'm making a video for the 4 or 5 most common variations. This video will serve as the introduction and talk you through why it is played and what makes it so popular and why people turn to it. So we're going to get an analysis board, and it's literally this. This is the Sicilian defense. The moves e4, c5 constitute the Sicilian defense, and it's a counter-attacking opening in which players typically attack on opposite sides of the board. So typically, white will attack on the king side, and black will attack on the queen side, as with lots of openings. So why e4, c5? Well, if we go back a move, typically black would play this. And what is the point of this move fundamentally? It's to stop white playing d5. Because, like in your French defense or your Caracan defense, white gets 2 pawns directly in the center. And if you don't challenge them, you can see from the evaluation, white is comfortably better. So we don't do this. Instead, we play c5, which is the same idea as e5. It's to control the d4 square. But what happens now if white plays d4? Well, you would trade the e pawn for the d pawn. Here, you're trading the c pawn, which typically gives black some advantage. You can see the engine, it's 0, 0, 0. Why? Because you have traded a flank pawn for a center pawn, which gives you a slight advantage. And you would say, but black doesn't have advantage. Black's advantage is that the game is level. Completely. 3 moves in, the game is level. Normally, white starts with an advantage. Look here. After c5, it's 0.03. You can see the white just above the orange line there. So white typically has that slight advantage because they go first. Now, the Sicilian defense in the League Chess Masters database has been played. I don't know when this data is ranging from. Over 500,000 times. I've got currently 567,659 games in the League Chess database. From what I'm using, there's probably more. It's probably closer to 1 million. So why is it played? Well, it's called sometimes a hypermodern opening. The Sicilian defense was introduced to the chess world in 1594 by Giuliano Cesar Polero and emerged into the mainstream in the early 20th century as a somewhat tame variation, ironically enough. With the discovery of new attacking ideas, it became black's most feared weapon by the 1950s and is pound for pound the most exhaustively analyzed of all chess openings. Like, think about this. Grandmasters, what do they spend most of their time on? Ruy Lopez, Italian, Sicilian. Why? Because it's really aggressive. If you want to play for a draw with black, you play e5. And you be solid, and you allow Ruy Lopez's and Italians and Petrovs and stuff like that. If you want to play for a win, you play c5. The alternative is to really go for the win and play e6. This constitutes that you two are going to get in and you're going to have a fight. But if your opponent doesn't want to fight, they'll play some of the stuff we'll talk about during the week. There are some anti-Sicilians or things that try and tame it. But the Sicilian is a wild horse. It's a wild horse. Black's move 1c5 creates a half-open c-file because typically you trade this. Then what happens? The rook comes to the c-file. And you'd say, well, that's not that threatening. It is, because most of the time, white goes long. Because again, you want to chuck your pawns on the king side. Well, black's got the ready-made attack here on the queen side. That is the whole idea. So c5 creates a half-open c-file. It controls the d4 square, and it allows the black queen to venture out if desired. So it can go, to c7 in some variations it goes to b6, some variations it goes to a5. Literally, it opens the queen up. And until the c pawn itself is safe from attack, unlike 1e5. Because 1e5, you bring a knight out. How do you attack this pawn immediately? You can't. White's responses. Now this is where we have to chat. Oh, I didn't mean to shift the whole board up and down. Sorry about that. c5, there's a couple of things you can do. The most common move, as I click here, 82% of the time, is to play knight f3, the open variation. Why? Because what's going to be the key idea? Black is going to make a move. There's multiple moves. There's d6, e6, g6, knight c6, and I think that's about all of them, all the common ones. There are others. So you can see black has 4 moves, but you're going to do, let's say they play g6. Why? You're going to play d4. And you say, but we know this is bad. But you're getting a knight in the center as opposed to a queen that's going to get booted. Here, bishop to g7. This is what we call the hyper-accelerated fianchetto, or the hyper-accelerated dragon. Don't worry about the names and stuff. And this is the typical idea. This bishop looks at the queen side. You're going to get the queen out. You're going to get your knight out. You're going to bring your rook to the c file. Why do people play this? Because it is imbalanced. Because there is imbalance. So you can play moves like c4. This is known as the Morozzi bind, this pawn structure. Often you can push here or you can push here, and you get this like almost pyramid shape with no pawn here. And black has got a few ways to counteract this. So why do people play the open? Because it is so forcing. No, not d4. d4 in this variation. So people play it because it's so confrontational. There is an alternative to knight f3. There are several alternatives. There are two main alternatives. And that is knight to c3, what we call the closed Sicilian. So this is still attacking, but you don't open up the board as quickly. So, because now you can still play d6, e6, g6, knight c3. It's still all of those moves are open. But white will probably play in a more cagey way. You won't develop as quickly. The board won't open up as quickly. So the closed Sicilian is a strategic opening that often leads to a slower kingside attack. Black usually fights for counterplay on the queen side. We know this. And it's much less played than the main line, which is the open Sicilian. But it's a good alternative. It is good. It is solid. If you really, really don't want to fight, you rocked up there, you've got a headache, or you're ill, like I have been recently, and you want to play a game, you play e4 because it's your repertoire, and you see c5, and you think, good lord, I don't want to play the Sicilian. I wanted to play 4 knights, or an Italian, or a Spanish, where I can make a quick draw. The version of that in the Sicilian is to play c3. Why? What's the key idea of c3? Let's say black plays a nothing move, e6. You play d4. And what happens? Symmetry. Here probably d5. And you'd say this looks like a French, just the way I've played it. But you have symmetry. You both have 2 center pawns, and you've traded your c-pawn. That is the pure thing. So what do we do as black to stop that? There are ways, and we'll probably talk about them later in the week. If not, Lichess, open Sicilian. They've got Alpine Sicilian. This is the Alpine Sicilian, the anti-Sicilian, I suppose. Look, there's whole lots of gambits and stuff. There's whole lots of opening theory. We're going to cover it more in detail. This has just been an introduction, a short introduction to the Sicilian to get you acquainted with what we're going to be talking about. There's lots of stuff. There's the Najdorf. We're going to be talking about the Najdorf. We're going to be talking about the Dragon. And there's so much good stuff. There's a reason why it is played. Now, some people will say you should only play it if you're X strength, if you're 1800, 2000. This opening is played online by everybody. So I feel you should know stuff. Even if you're not going to play it with black, you should know how to play it with white. Because particularly if you're an e4 player. If you play d4 and you never intend on playing it with black, by all means, ignore the video, watch them out of interest. Maybe your interest gets piqued because you see, oh, Magnus Carlsen or Fabiano Caruana, they played this amazing attacking game in the Sicilian defense and I want to play it. Of course you can. Chess is whatever you want it to be. You can play whatever you like. It can be good, it can be bad, it can be pointless. Chess is about what you want to play. So that's why I'm showing you the Sicilian defense. It is very complicated. It can be. Sometimes it's very simple. So we shall see. What do you think?